All right. The floor is yours, Gianluca.
Thank you, Julia. Good morning, everyone. I will really dedicate 2 minutes to the presentation of this event, which was co-organized together with our members of the Chamber of Commerce, Italian Belgian in Brussels, of course. I'm Gianluca Coppola. I'm the president of the European Digital Learning Network, hosting this morning in the framework of the DigitEdu2025 initiative, which is actually a very long list, if you may want, of initiatives that every year we run, thanks also the auspices and the support of the Commission through our annual operating grant. With this year, we are, as a team, as a community of members, particularly proud to have run until the end, because this is perhaps the last, well, just one missing next week event we host this year, which was very, very challenging. Just to mention, this year we host our annual conference in Porto with more than 300 individuals worldwide coming and discussing the digital education, to satellite conference in Poland and in Latvia. We ran 2 European research investigating on the impact on the education of the artificial intelligence, in particular in school education and in higher education. We organized 10 networking events with more 700 participants, 3 training courses, 5 webinars, and 4 workshops, all of them free of charge for plus 2,000 individuals in Europe, which live in person participate with us in this occasion. So this is just to share with you the idea that this year Europe was really represented, sometimes in very peripheral area, in very rural areas, and we worked a lot with our members for making this work plan through. Thank you very much, Giorgio. Thank you very much, Fatin and Julia, for organizing this morning, which was very, very demanding, considering also the particular period we are in the beginning of December. For those who does not know who is the DLearn, which is the familiar name of the European Digital Learning Network, is an European network gathering some 39 members now, representing 22 European countries. Members are university, schools, research center, public bodies, with the mission of understanding better how can digital helping a lot more the education, both from the side of the students, whatever this means, can be adults, it can be professionals, and also from the side of teachers, educators. And so you can, of course, visit our site for many more details. Thank you for your attention. I will leave the floor for Giorgio for welcoming the morning, and then we can start the technical session. And thank you also for the speakers from the Commission, particularly Mr. Jasen Spassov and the colleagues which we follow.
Thank you very much, Gianluca, but Fatin will introduce the day, so thank you very much for the opening. Fatin, the floor is yours.
Yes, thank you very much, Gianluca and Giorgio. Thank you everyone for being here, for joining us this morning for this, as we wanted to call it, a morning talks with the European Commission. The webinar will be focusing on 3 main thematics. Will be the Erasmus Plus 2026 and the next, of course, program in the next MFF, the AI Act, and then social and inclusive entrepreneurship. Briefly about the Belgian-Italian Chamber of Commerce, my name is Fatin, and with Giorgio and Julia, we work at the Belgian-Italian Chamber of Commerce, which is based in Brussels. And as an organization, beside the part on the entrepreneurship, we are extremely active and collaborating within Brussels kind of world and the European affairs field. So we wanted to co-organize this webinar with DLearn, and we thank DLearn for the opportunity, because we value a lot the collaboration with European institutions, and we want everyone and in Europe actively working on projects from receiving fundings from the European Commission to be updated on the latest news, to also have this moment of dialogue with the representative from the European Commission, and to really move together forward in the same direction for a better future for all the citizens here in Europe. So thank you very much, and I wish you a good webinar to all of you. Please, Julia, I leave you the floor now.
So without further ado, I will just briefly introduce the first speaker of this morning, Mr. Spassov from DGEAC. Mr. Spassov, previously a policy officer, is now a program manager at DGEAC, and he contributes to the design and rollout of the Erasmus Plus program, and also to the development of the future program generation post-2027. In particular, he contributes to draft, revision, and publication of reference documents of the current and the future Erasmus Plus program, including program guide, calls for proposals, forms and guidelines for program stakeholders. And he also steers the consultation of internal and external stakeholders through meetings, working groups, and other means. So thank you again, Mr. Spassov, for being here this morning, and I leave you the floor.
Thank you very much, dear colleagues. Good morning from my side as well. Indeed, my name is Jasen Spassov, and as you have heard, I am working as a program manager in the DGEAC, Education, Youth, Culture and Sport of the European Commission. In particular, I'm part of, let's call it a bit of a horizontal team that is working on the future generation of the Erasmus Plus program. Of course, it's a team with different experts with different backgrounds, but of course, our main goal is to propose the best possible program for the next generation. This is why for today I decided to focus the presentation mostly on the future, but of course towards the end I would say a couple of words about what is there still on offer for the next year, so for 2026, and also of course there's another year, the final year of this generation of the program, 2027. So the program of course is up and running, and I hope that most of you already have experienced one way or another the benefits of the program, the opportunities that we provide, but we may come to some sharing of experiences a bit later. So not so much to lose time, I would like to start up a presentation, but I need first to share it before I go into the presenter mode. Bear with me. Okay, so share, that's the presentation, and then of course I put it on full screen, and let me know if for some reason you don't see it well, but normally it should be fine.
Yes, it's working fine just now.
Yes, thanks a lot. So you may be aware that the Commission has proposed a big package of programs for the next MFF, so the multi-annual financial framework for the period 2028-2034. The biggest part of this package was presented to the public on the 16th of July, and there were some other programs that were presented on in the month of September, a bit later, but I'm going to focus on the proposal for the future Erasmus Plus program. This is what I'm dealing with here in the Commission. This proposal that we have made, of course, it's not based on thin air. It's based on solid work that has been done throughout the years. On one hand, of course, we had the interim evaluations of the current generation of the program, including the European Solidarity Corps, which at the moment is a separate but kind of a sister program that also funds activities in the area of volunteering, so mainly working with youth organizations there. And also what was used to feed in the proposal for the future is the final evaluation of the previous generation of the program. So the previous generation ran between 2014 and 2020. This was actually the first generation where the Erasmus Plus program was integrated under one roof. For those of you who have experience from the years before that, you may remember that we had sectorial programs covering the different fields of education, training, and youth. For example, Leonardo da Vinci, probably very popular among you, but also, of course, Erasmus, the student exchange program that is the first program of the sort, and that, of course, gives the name subsequently to all of the actions that we're currently funding. Sorry. These evaluations, okay, they looked in the past, so what has happened so far in the previous generation and half of this generation between 21 and 23. But there was also an impact assessment that was done on what is to be expected for the future. So the European budget, of course, as you know, is divided into a lot of different areas. We are operating under an area which supports quite a broad spectrum of activities, but you see some of them on the screen. So, for example, cross-border education, training, solidarity, youth, media, culture, the creative sectors, values, and civil societies. Of course, it's not the only program that is addressing all of these elements, but it's one of the main instruments of the European Union. So whenever a new program is being proposed, the Commission, of course, before that, produces a big impact assessment to understand what would be the expected benefits of the new proposal. And on top of that, of course, throughout different kinds of occasions, we have been consulting on regular basis all of the stakeholders of the program. So first and foremost, of course, there was an open public consultation that was available for a couple of months, where we actually received quite substantial, several thousand replies, quite substantial input from beneficiaries, past beneficiaries, current beneficiaries, organizations active in the fields of education, training, and youth, other stakeholders. We also organized a big stakeholder event in the beginning of this year, in February. On more, let's say, spontaneous basis, we received different position papers from organizations that are operating in the program, or very similar, for example, to your organizations, chambers of commerce, some other representatives of different stakeholder groups. And on top of everything, of course, we do organize working groups with our, let's say, main points of reference, which are the Erasmus Plus national agencies, the Erasmus Plus national authorities, ministries, but also within our own remit here in the Commission. What did the evaluation and consultation tell us? There were quite some positive findings. First start with that, but of course there are areas for improvement as usual. The key positive findings, for example, I have included here the most, let's say, prominent ones. The program is relevant and responds to Europe's current and future needs. This has been particularly obvious during crises that have happened in the past years, unfortunately, such as, for example, the COVID crisis or Russia's war in Ukraine most recently. The program delivers a clear added value, and in many cases, it is a program that does not have a one-to-one equivalent in national terms. So for many of the participating countries, this is the only source of funding for such activities, be that learning mobility activities or be that cooperation types of activities in the areas of education, training, youth, and sport. On the personal level, the program brings significant benefits for participants, also including young people. It empowers them with skills, it strengthens communities and solidarity. The program is also one of the main elements that is used, or one of the means that the European Union uses to promote EU values and identity and foster a sense of belonging to the European Union. And this is something very important. I'll come back to that when we speak about our proposal for the future. And the program operates through efficient and well-established systems. Here, what is meant is that the management system of the program, with this repartition of on one hand, we have the Erasmus Plus national agencies, which pretty much manage around 80% of the budget of the program. And here in Brussels, we also have an executive agency for culture, for education and culture, that also operates around 20% of the budget. So these structures, they are well established, they are well known, and they are efficient in the management of the program. As I said, of course, as any other evaluation, there are also areas that need some improvement, and these have been, of course, been the building blocks for our proposal. In the first place, of course, expanding the reach of the program, there is always a potential to expand to further beneficiaries, to reach target audiences that may be a bit harder to reach. Just the other day, on Friday, last Friday, I was taking part with my director in the Committee of the Regions, where we spoke with representatives of different regions around Europe. And for example, there are notions that some rural areas or mountain regions, for example, are not yet well reached by the program. So there is always this potential to reach more and more potential participants. There's always, of course, the the effort to enhance and further improve the management and implementation of the program, in particular through this management mode that I discussed a bit earlier, where we have this repetition between centralized and decentralized management. The program, of course, needs to invest more efforts into increasing the sustainability of results and scalability, because we have now big number of projects being funded every year, thousands of projects around Europe in different countries with different topics, but not always these projects remain, let's say, valid or active after they stop receiving the EU funding. So we would need to look into ways to increase the sustainability, or even better, to let's say, use the results created by these projects to be the basis for future projects or for future policy initiatives. The resilience of the program that I mentioned, in particular when it comes to crisis situations, it was assessed as good, but there is still some room to increase the flexibility. In particular, when it comes to shifting of budget, for example, to cover different priorities that emerge and we cannot necessarily think of for the next, almost 10 years. And I mentioned this is the proposal for the program to cover the years between 28 and 34. So of course, there might be some societal needs that would need to receive some further attention. And something that is even a bit more concrete, the evaluation has shown us that we could improve the coherence between the Erasmus Plus and the European Solidarity Corps program. I mentioned it's a kind of a sister program. It's also managed by our Director General of the Commission, but it has let's say, a specific focus on solidarity and volunteering. So the evaluation suggested that we should identify ways to address the potential overlaps and improving the overall efficiency and increasing the clarity for the stakeholders. Now, how did these insights shape our proposal? First and foremost, we are very happy that in the proposed budgets for the next multi-annual financial framework of the European Union, the Erasmus Plus program receives a 50% nominal increase of the budget, which is in times of tight budgets where there are shifting priorities to much more expensive, let's say, areas such as defense and, of course, competition. It's important to be able to showcase that our program has a big added value, and this is recognized through the potentially increased budget. Of course, this is the proposal of the Commission. It would still need to be discussed by the Council of the European Union and the European Parliament, the co-legislators. The learning mobility remains at the core of the program. In the current generation, of course, learning mobility, be that in the field of higher education, vocational education training, school education, adult education, youth, a bit in sport as well, of course, uses up more than half of the budget of the program, and this will remain, of course, the core of the budget. At the same time, we are working towards enhanced inclusion. So we will be looking at ways to further invest, let's say, efforts and time into finding ways to make the program more accessible, in particular to participants with fewer opportunities. In a way, this goes hand in hand with our efforts to simplify the program. So in terms of, let's say, funding opportunities, maybe it's important to mention that we have proposed a simpler menu of learning opportunities that at the same time keeps what exists there, but proposes a menu that is easier to understand, easier to navigate. At the same time, of course, we are always working towards simplifying application forms, report forms, grant agreements, and so on. Of course, this is not an easy task because you can imagine we are dealing with a big variety of applicants and beneficiaries. Some of them are big universities, big chambers of commerce, for example, big companies. But on the other hand, we also have very small youth-led organizations. So we need to cater for all interests when we are designing the different measures of the program. We're of course going to continue with the scope of the intervention delivery mechanisms, meaning that we're going to support the same types of activities and the same opportunities that we currently support. But of course, we are also adding some new elements to the program. Of course, as I mentioned, there was a very clear suggestion by the evaluation of the program that a merger with the European Solidarity Corps is on the table. So we have proposed that as well as part of the next program. We also try to build in mechanisms within the program that improve the flexibility, in particular when it comes to budget shifts, as I mentioned, and also looking into ways to improve synergies with other programs, in particular the Future European Competitiveness Fund, also the Global Europe Fund, which is targeting European interests with third countries around the world. So, having said that, there are four big principles that we have incorporated within the proposal of the next generation of Erasmus+. So the first one is that we understand Erasmus+ based on its dual DNA. So the dual DNA, as we usually call it, or this two-leg approach, is that on one hand, this is a program that I hope that you would agree with us. It's really putting a lot of effort, investment, ambition into skills development and competitiveness. So this is something that is very important, in particular in the current context of European policy, where competitiveness is put at a very high level, in particular towards big other players at the global level, such as, for example, the United States, China, Japan, and so on. At the same time, our program is and will remain one of the main instruments of the European Union to promote EU values and the democratic participation. So we do see that these two pillars, two legs, really form what Erasmus+ is. That's why we call it the dual DNA of the Erasmus+ program. We are trying to, as an overall principle of the program, ensure that everyone has at least one Erasmus+ experience in their life, as a teacher, as a pupil, as a vet learner, as a volunteer, as a student. Of course, it could be argued whether with this budget, even though it's increased with 50%, we are going to be able to propose this, but at least we are working towards it. Of course, this is not the last time that the Erasmus+ program will be on the table. Of course, the understanding is that every next generation, we add on top, we build on what is working well, and we try to propose a program that is even more accessible to everyone, so that with the ultimate goal, everyone has at least one experience in their life. As I mentioned a bit earlier, we try to be as inclusive as ever, so we are trying to design our actions already in a way that they provide for support to participants with fewer opportunities. And last but not least, the integration of the volunteering activities with the proposed merge of the European Solidarity Corps for us would create a one-stop shop for all the opportunities that the European Union is proposing to young people in particular. Of course, not only, because volunteering is not always linked to only young people, but this is the main, let's say, target group of this part of the program. So all of this would result in the structure that you see on the screen. Maybe you remember, for those of you who have, of course, experience in the program, the current program is based on key actions. So we have three key actions. One is funding opportunities for learning mobility. The second one is funding opportunity for cooperation types of activities. And the third one is funding opportunities for policy development. Now, with the new proposal, what we try to do is that we put together all the activities that more or less are funding activities aimed at individuals in the first, let's say, pillar of the future program, the learning opportunities for all on the left-hand side, and on the right-hand side are the activities that are aimed at institutional cooperation, regardless of the fact whether this is a cooperation between the institutions themselves or they are supporting the policy development at national or European level. So this is a bit the logic behind it. This is our idea behind this leaner menu, as we like to call it. And we do see this as an effort from a simplification point of view to make the program even more understandable, easy to navigate for potential applicants, beneficiaries, participants. What we are going to fund there is also very important, and it's important for you to see that we are indeed building on what is there at the moment, and we are proposing some novelties, of course. As I mentioned, learning mobility opportunities will still be at the core of the program. So you would find these learning mobility opportunities for learners and staff in education and training, also in the area of the youth. Something that is new. It's a tiny addition, but we try to propose a homogeneous, let's say, offer when we talk about learning mobility, is the addition of athletes and people active in grassroots sport. in the current generation of the program. We do have learning mobility for sports staff, but yeah, this is an addition that we're proposing to add in the next generation of the program. There are some support measures. I'm not going to go into the details, but it's just to mark that there are support measures, for example, language support, preparatory visits, some training activities, and so on, that are there to facilitate the participation in learning mobility. At the same time, we are trying to, let's say, propose some new opportunities, in particular when it comes to talent and excellence development. The Erasmus Plus program for the next generation proposes a new activity about scholarships in strategic educational fields, in particular in the STEM areas. This is an effort to propose an opportunity to young people to study in Europe, to stay in Europe, so that they don't look for opportunities somewhere abroad, for example, I don't know, the United States or Singapore, in particular for talented students in yes, educational fields that are of importance to the society, to the business. On top of that, we are currently funding and will continue to fund Erasmus Mundus scholarships. These are mostly scholarships for third country nationals, so people coming from other parts of the world to study in Europe and potentially to stay and develop their talents here. And there are, I'm not going to go in that much detail, but there are some actions which are aimed at building excellence in higher education, in particular the Jean Monnet actions. The second pillar, what is currently known as Key Action 2 of the program and Key Action 3 of the program, will look like that mostly. So, as I said, we are keeping the opportunities that we're funding in the current generation of the program. Maybe some of you already have some experience, because for organizations like yours, this is one of the preferred options for participation in the program, participation in cooperation types of partnerships. So, for example, we are going to keep smaller and medium-scale cooperation types of partnerships, and on top of that, we're going to continue developing and further increasing the offer of partnerships for excellence and innovation. So, for example, the European universities, the centers of vocational excellence, the European teacher academies, these are already quite well-established types of projects that we're funding. And of course, we would like to expand this offer, as I said, and you see on the screen that there are a couple of additions. So, for example, some partnerships in the school area, some further partnerships to develop joint study programs in higher education, and some partnerships in the field of sport. And of course, what is important is that we will continue to support policy development, where we work with combinations of public and private institutions. So, for example, we will continue funding policy experimentation projects, where we normally work with big organizations at national level, be that universities, sometimes regional authorities for education, sometimes other representatives at national level, that also cooperate with, let's say, big organizations on the private side, or in the private sector, to create policy recommendations in a particular area. For example, I'm going to come to it in a moment again, but for next year, in 2026, I will be publishing another call for policy experimentation with a variety of topics. The program will continue to support online platforms and tools for virtual cooperation, and finally, of course, some activities and awareness raising actions. Going towards already the end of the presentation, I have a couple of more slides. I spoke about inclusion on a couple of occasions, but it's important to come back to it, because this is going to be an overarching principle of the program. So basically, not only we preserve the approach, but we are trying to strengthen it through proposing other types of funding opportunities or learning formats or preparatory activities, so that indeed the access to the program is open to everyone, regardless of their economic background or family background or religious background, or you name it. So indeed, we are looking into ways to increase the targeted financial support. We are looking into ways to also create different types of activities that before, during, or after the participation are supporting such participants. And finally, this is a bit like the, how to say, the summary of all of this. It could seem a bit technical, of course, but it's important to keep it in mind because this is the proposal of the Commission for the next generation. And yeah, a big part of it most probably will remain as it is proposed. Of course, now we are entering into the negotiation stage. Negotiation I mentioned with the Council of the European Union and also the European Parliament. So yeah, we have a couple of years that are going to be quite busy in front of us, but of course we are all working together for the greater good of the European society. So what is important, I mentioned it already, increased budget. So 15% in nominal terms. So now the proposed budget is close to 41 billion euro. We're not going to have budget earmarking per field for the moment. As I spoke about flexibility, for example, and the Commission sees this as a way to be able to flexibly shift funds where they are needed from one priority to another in reaction to societal needs, of course. About synergies, I mentioned already, we're looking into funding opportunities from other EU programs, in particular Global Europe. So the Global Europe, the Future Global Europe Fund is will continue to support the possibility for third countries to join the program one way or another. So, for example, whether that would be through full association or some other types of association, or simply to be able to cooperate with regions of interest to the European Union. We're also going to continue with the indirect management. As I said, indirect management means that most of the funds will be managed through the network of the national agencies of Erasmus+. Something that is a bit different from this generation of the program is that now the Commission has proposed corporate provisions on communication, information monitoring, and evaluation, which will be overarching for all European Union programs to measure their efficiency and impact. So it's something that is kind of, let's say, taken away from the sectorial programs, but moved to a higher level in order to be able to ensure the efficient use of EU budget as a whole. Before I close the presentation and open the floor maybe for some questions and answers, just a small message that last month, a couple of weeks ago, we have shared or published rather the Erasmus Plus program guide for 2026. As I mentioned, the program continues up and running. I mean, for 2 more years in the current generation. It's not going to stop. This is what I have shown you there. It's the proposal for the future, but of course, we still have, and 2 out of 5 years is not a short period of time, to be honest. The program, of course, will continue supporting activities that maybe some of you or most of you are very familiar with. In 26, so mobility activities will continue to be supported. Centers of vocational excellence will continue to be supported. Other types of cooperation activities as well. I also mentioned that we're going to publish soon. It's in the beginning of next year for sure. A very specialized call for policy experimentations. These policy experimentations will be in different fields, for example, in the field of higher education, in the field of vocational education training, in particular about creating some STEM centers and other activities. In the field of, I think we also have school education covered there, and some activities on micro credentials. It's a big, let's say, list. There are going to be 10 topics to be funded with policy experimentation projects. Could be interesting to some of you. I'm flagging it here as a possibility. This policy experimentation call is managed here in Brussels centrally through our executive agency for education and culture, EACL, also the abbreviation, maybe it rings a bell. So yeah, I mean, more or less from my side, I think that's it. I open now the floor for questions so that we have half of the time also dedicated to questions, if that's okay with you. Thank you.
Well, thank you again, Mr. Spassov. You provided a very comprehensive overview of what especially the future of the Erasmus Plus program will be. And indeed, we already have one question in the chat. So Carmen Arias, she's asking, she's saying, thanks very much for the presentation from the European Footwear Confederation. Could you please indicate if those stakeholders, members of a Pact for Skills, will have preference, or would it be any advantage in certain calls for proposals? Thanks very much in advance.
Yes, indeed. So, organizations that are participating in the Pact for Skills indeed are in the Erasmus Plus, for example, program guide for 2026, are identified in some of the calls for proposals. For example, we have, let me just, I'm quickly scrolling just so that I don't give you the wrong information. It's about, if I'm not mistaken, the Alliances for Innovation. These are alliances that normally take place between yes, indeed, education and training or institutions and the private sector. Also, the centers of vocational excellence, as usual, another type of opportunity that is open to these organizations, and where they are, of course, recognized with their contribution. I'm checking if there is something else at the moment, because the menu of opportunities that we have on offer is quite a large one. So yes, indeed, alliances. So in particular, the alliances for sectoral cooperation on skills, or something that is also quite known in the public as the blueprint alliances. These alliances, of course, recognize yes, the participation in the Pact for Skills. Yeah. So I don't know if this answers your question.
Well, if Carmen wants to
Yes.
also speak live, please feel free to do it. And everybody, let's just not be shy. You can ask as many questions as you want. Yes, she's replying in the group chat that indeed you answer her concern.
Okay, thanks. Yes. By the way, let me know if you would like me to post here in the chat the link to the Erasmus Plus Program Guide 2026 for ease of information.
It will be surely useful for everybody who has joined this morning. Adding on this, for those who may have not noticed it before, Mr. Coppola from DLearn, he already shared in the group chat also the link to read and use the research materials of the DLearn consortium.
Yes.
Okay, so there it is. So this is the link to the Erasmus Plus Program Guide 26. So it is published, meaning that the call for proposals is open. Of course, you need to be mindful of the different deadlines, because the different actions have different deadlines. In particular, the ones that are managed by the national agencies have different deadlines from the ones managed by the executive agency, but also between, let's say, the different actions managed at national or centralized level. Also, sometimes there are different deadlines. Just a reminder to be
careful.
to be careful to start preparing potential projects on time. So
yes,
indeed. That's always a good tip. It's nothing new, but important to remind people.
Julia, may I take the floor for a few seconds?
Indeed, Gianluca, please.
No, well, actually, I don't have maybe activate the raise the hand function here. So sorry for jumping in. I would like to take advantage from the presence of Mr. Spassov here to bring the Commission some instances that during this year we have been discussing with our members, and in particular, exactly falling down in this new wave of reflection for the new program. So I may have several, maybe sometimes even small suggestion of improvement, but just a couple of them seems very, very in line with what Mrs. Spassov was saying this morning. For example, in particular, I was touched by suggestion of our members to suggesting new micro experiential mobility formats. I mean, or we mean, for example, wherever would be possible, introducing recurring micromobility, for example, 3 to 10 days, but repeated throughout the year. This will mean help better, for example, secondary school or a small institution or small organization in peripheral areas or rural areas. To let the mobility becoming a cycle and not only on one-off event. So maybe this could be discussed into the reform of a program. Another suggestion may be, for example, also thinking to farther areas of Europe, creating territorial hubs, doesn't matter if physical or hybrid, managed by certificate local consortia, which offer support into creating mobility, for example, initiatives or mobility projects, because what we have been noticing during sometimes difficulty into accessing, the technicalities of preparing mobility initiative. And finally, among others, I picked up suggestions for a better refinement of the, let's say, portal that we are using every day, according if the initiatives are at national level, so passing through the national agency, where we have to use a certain platform for managing the project, which is slightly different or sometimes very different from the central project. Just worth to mention that we have to work with the two identification number, which is the OID for national agencies, is the PIC for the European Commission. So if there is any reflection here to unify the access and the reporting system, which will be a really step ahead into reduce the bureaucracy, as you was speaking as Passo before, about a better simplification of the program. So this could be really nice to unify the access portal, the reporting portal, the monitoring portal with one single identification number, and with exactly the same the same layout, with actually the same information we have to deal with according if national or central project. Thank you for your attention.
Yes, thank you very much. No, these are great suggestions. Of course, I may come back to each and every of them. So, in particular, for the first two, because I believe they're quite linked, and thank you for raising this, because indeed the mobility opportunities that the current generation of the program, and of course the future generation of the program, will continue to support, are there to serve a purpose. So they're also happening not in a vacuum, but they're happening in an ecosystem of other activities. I mean, be that in a school, be that in a vocational education training center, higher education institution, and so on. So they need to have a logic behind them, and they need to, of course, serve the purpose of building capacity, improving skills, developing skills, and so on. So in principle, there is not, let's say, an obligation that mobility activity should only take place only once, or it should not be followed up by another. But at the same time, of course, you remember that we speak also about the possibility to propose opportunities for ever greater number of people to join the program. So what needs to be done is that, of course, organizations, they need to plan very well in advance how they can use the mobility activities that they have at their disposal. The accreditation system that exists in the current generation of the program, and of course will be improved for the next, is a very good example of a tool that allows organizations to plan ahead in terms of their activities, but also in terms of their budget. So it is, of course, very much possible that within an accredited project for those colleagues who may not know yet, or it doesn't ring a bell exactly, is just to say it's a project where the organization has been accredited to receive regular funding from the program. So the organization has received this kind of let's say seal that yes, it's part of the Erasmus Plus family, and throughout the period can regularly apply and receive funding. So within such a project, an organization can do different combinations of mobilities. So it could be staff mobility, it could be learner mobility, it could be a combination of different learner mobility. So indeed, that's not a bad idea, where an organization, for example, does a short mobility for one young person, then they go back to their organization, then they go back again somewhere else, and so on, to follow up on the previous experience that they have gained. Linked to that, what you mentioned for the kind of hubs in the rural regions, or in general not so easy to reach regions, I think also the accreditation system could be very beneficial, but if it is taken up by bigger organizations, or organizations that have a more prominent role at the regional level. So for example, in school education, we have the regional authorities in many countries, and we provide an opportunity for accreditation as a consortium coordinator. Now, this is important because if you're a big organization, you would probably have more capacity, more experience, more staff. And indeed, we're trying to incentivize, of course, through the network of national agencies, the work of such organizations, because also from an administrative point of view, it's much easier that one organization applies for bigger funding, so they have their own, let's say, grant agreement, they receive a bigger pot of money, and then they work directly with the smaller organizations in their regions. So like that, we try to ensure that small organizations also have access to the program, not necessarily through a very burdensome administrative procedure. This, we are looking into ways how we can improve it for the future, how we can make it more present, but it exists as an opportunity already nowadays. Maybe it's a question of outreach for the moment. Maybe the right organizations do not necessarily always have the right information. And the last point about the IT tools, I've noted it down. Thanks for the suggestion. Indeed, it's true that the two systems, applying through a national agency or applying through the executive agency, are unfortunately quite different. And this is, of course, it has some background, but we're also looking into ways how we can improve it, even though I'm not sure that we can have the same system, because the centralized management of projects is not only covering Erasmus+, it also covers projects in different programs that are managed by different director generals, different executive agencies, and so on. So this is kind of a corporate for the whole commission system that is being used there. However, at the national level, where we have the national agencies, it's a different network of organizations with different access levels and so on. What we are trying to do is that we are trying to build on the good practices from each of the systems to improve them both at the same time and make them as much as possible, let's say, similar, or at least providing the same type of experience. It's not necessarily the case at the moment. We acknowledge that, but we're working towards making it simpler for the beneficiaries. Thanks. I see two questions in the chat, if I may.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah.
So the first one would be
yes.
from Mr. Budakov. I'm sorry for the mispronunciation.
Yes, so
in case.
Questions, yes.
Yes. So he's asking if you could please advise if the sectorial priorities will remain the same.
Yes, so basically for 2026, I would start, of course, with the horizontal priorities first. We have 4 overarching horizontal priorities, so inclusion, green and digital transformation, and active participation in democratic life. So, of course, the horizontal priorities stay the same. Then when we move one level down to the sectorial priorities, we do have sectorial priorities, for example, in particular under Key Action 2, so the cooperation types of partnerships. I'm not sure if your question relates to these, but if it does, generally they remain the same, but we have tried also to introduce a bit of a streamlining between the different priorities for this generation of the program. The best source of information, of course, is the program guide. I posted the link in the chat. You can find the sector-specific priorities there. Mostly they stay the same, but as I said, we also tried to slim down a bit the number of priorities and to incorporate some of them that had, let's say, similar objectives. For example, I'm just looking in front of me into the program guide. In the area of school education, for example, we have reduced the sectorial priorities to 4 big ones. In higher education, we have how many are there? Yeah, also 4. So yeah, I mean, if you have been a regular applicant or a beneficiary of the program, you may remember that in previous years, at some point, the number of priorities has been increasing. So we had 7, 8 in the different sectors. We tried to introduce a bit of reordering there so that we also be more concrete in what we expect the projects to achieve. I hope this replies to your question.
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, let's see the next one.
Yes.
So, yes, a new limitation in the CCBIxE capacity building for higher education. Is that it?
Yes, indeed. There are 2 regarding capacity building on higher education.
Exactly.
So the first one is from Theodore.
Yes.
So he's asking about the new limitation in the CCBIxE call. where each institution, HEI can be a coordinator in max 2 project proposals submitted. So he's asking you if you could make this more explicit. If more than 2 proposals are submitted by a single HEI having the coordinator role, will all of them, and perhaps other proposals with a beneficiary role, be rejected? At the moment, no mechanism exists in each EIs to monitor these particular issues.
Yes, I would need to come back to you because I know the question, but I need to be sure to give you the right answer. So if you can give me a couple of minutes in the meantime. But the second question, I think it's related to that. No, I mean,
yes,
moreover,
indeed. So is Achilles Cames from OpenEU still asking a question about capacity building in higher education. So he's saying there are 2 sets of priorities mentioned in the call text per region, the 5 proposed by you and those put forward by each country global Europe. A proposal that adheres to one of the 5 EU priorities for the region, but which is not included in those mentioned by the country global Europe. Does it stand any chance of funding, or will it be de facto excluded?
Yeah, on this, unfortunately, I cannot give you a straight answer. I may take the question with my colleagues that are responsible for this action. So if you're okay with that, you can maybe leave me your email address so that I address it separately. I'm sorry for that, but I mean, I'm not in the position to answer all the questions on the different activities. So I hope that's fine.
Indeed. And another one just pop out, if we can add on this thread. So is Miss Bixo from AT. I don't know if it stands for Austria or the acronym of an association. So she's asking for help in a question in KA 122 VET 2026 program guide.
Okay.
So quoting, job shadowing requires a clear identification of the main mentor at the hosting organization, the person who is being shadowed by the participant for the duration of the activity. A maximum of 2 participants can be shadowing the same mentor at the same time. Related to this, she's asking when is a 10 members groups, it means that they would need 5 mentors. So I'm not sure if reading out loud help or if you want to read it yourself.
I mean, okay. I'm also trying to navigate in the question myself, but I mean, in principle, yes, that's what it means. But I mean, it could be even less because you have a maximum of 2 participants. So you may have one that is shadowing another one, so 1-to-1.
Okay. No. In the meantime, I saw that Achilles has provided you with the email.
Yes. And
if anybody else wants to also ask a live question, you can raise your hand or just directly jump in the chat. Well, another one has came from Miss Yakovenko. She's asking if you could please clarify the target group for Alliance Lot Free STEM Skills Foundries, because the text guide, the guide text at page 292 refers to young students, entrepreneurs. So does this mean that projects under this lot should only target students who are already entrepreneurs, who are developing concrete business ideas into strategic sectors? However, based on the other requirements of this goal, it seems that the target group should primarily be STEM students, since we have to develop curricula that emphasize the STEM skills needed in strategic sectors, with modules that cover real-world problem-solving, entrepreneurial thinking, the basics of intellectual property rights, and financing early-stage innovations, with emphasis on those who develop concrete businesses resulting from their participation in these courses developed in the framework of the proposed project. So the core question would be if projects under the Alliance Lot Free STEM Skills Foundries should necessarily be already entrepreneurs or developing concrete business ideas in strategic sectors.
Look, I mean, this is also a bit of a detailed question that I'm not sure that I can give you the right answer, but I'll try as well to interpret a bit the situation. So first of all, for these types of actions, what is important is that you have the right organizations that are represented there in terms of, let's say, the pure eligibility of the project. So this is where you should start. I mean, looking at the different types of organizations, there, of course, quite a lot. Then when it comes a bit to the content of the project, of course, we try in our program guide to provide you with some ideas. So, for example, there's a section under each, let's say, different type of action that is funded, which is about setting up a project. And there we give some examples. So for the skills foundries, for example, we say that one or more of the different activities should be addressed. For example, the developing curricula that emphasizes STEM skills, the setting up of incubators, or fostering partnerships among students. So if you manage to fit your project into one of these or a couple of them at the same time, that's already good. Unfortunately, I'm not in a position to give you more concrete information. Again, it's not in my remit of work, but I can take this question also to the relevant colleagues. In this particular case, actually, we do have a cooperation, very tight cooperation between my own DG, Education and Culture, and DG Employment, because they are also in, let's say, the steering wheel of policies that are more related to the labor market, to employment, to vocational education and training. So if that's okay with you, I propose to take this question as well and try to come back to you with a more complete answer by email.
Yes, indeed, there she is with the email, and we will just collect all the questions that will remain unanswered, and we'll maybe send them to you if it's
yes, exactly. I also wanted to come back to
the previous question.
To a previous question, but
I think you may be referring to that related to capacity building in higher education, about the chance of submitting two different proposals.
Yes, but unfortunately, I couldn't find the information that I was looking into, so that's why that's what I wanted to. So if you could also send me your email,
yes,
I think I actually have the email address as part of the participants list. But indeed, I mean, if you could send it just in case. Thanks a lot.
Indeed.
No.
I don't know if anybody else has other questions to ask to Mr. Spassov.
Sorry, some of the questions are indeed very technical and are a bit outside of my remit of work, so that's why I cannot answer directly. But of course, I know the colleagues that can answer to these questions, so I can.
I think I speak on behalf of everybody here if I say that you don't really need to be sorry, because you already provided us with many insightful information about what the current and the future European Erasmus program will provide. So we understand that you provided us with everything that was at your disposal, and indeed, if your colleagues will then help you, we will be more than grateful. But we already appreciate your contribution this morning.
Yes, thank you for that. Of course, I'm open to any other questions. I mean, if there are further questions that arrive a bit later or during the day,
we will collect them and forward them to you. Otherwise, if nobody else wants to jump in right now, we would propose a 10 minutes break, and then we could meet again at 10:15 with Ms. Darigo to move forward to the next topic of this morning, which is AI Act and the use of AI in Europe.
Yes. Thank you very much again, Mr.
Thank you very much.
Yes. Thank you so much.
Thank you all, and see you in 10 minutes then. I see everybody slowly coming back to the screen. One last minute before we start with the next presentation. Also, thank you to Mr. Rigo to be already connected and to have joined us this morning to discuss about the AI Act and its impact in the European Union especially. I saw that last question still regarding the EU financial strategy has come. I will save it and forward it to Mr. Spasso, if it's all right for Marta from IEF. Indeed. So it's 10:15. I would say that without further ado, we can proceed with the other intervention of the morning. So here with us, we have Miss Miriam D'Arrigo from DG Connect. And Mr. Rigo, she is a qualified lawyer, currently serving as legal and policy officer in DG Connect, so the Directorate General for Communications Networks, Content and Technology. And in particular, she is a member of the AI office dealing with artificial intelligence regulation and compliance. She is also she was part of the European Commission's legal team responsible for the negotiations of the political agreement on the AI Act regulation, and she's currently working on the implementation of the regulation. So we contacted her because she's definitely the best person to discuss about the AI Act and its impact on in the EU. Please, Mr. Rigo, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much for the invitation to join you today. I hope that you can hear and see me well. Perfect. So indeed, thanks a lot also for the kind introduction. Indeed, I am one of the legal responsible for the implementation of the AI Act, so the new regulation for AI systems and AI models in Europe. I prepared a short presentation so to offer you an introduction about the AI Act and this new regulation, but I would really also like to hear the views of indeed the other participants. And of course, I'm happy to take any question about the AI Act and its impact also afterwards. I will try to share my screen now. So let me see if, okay.
Yes, we can see it.
Okay, perfect. So I switch to presenting mode.
Perfect, thank you.
Perfect. Then, okay, so the AI Act regulation is quite complex and new. So I tried to present a bit the main points of it. So bear with me, and indeed I will propose to offer a bit of a presentation of the main elements and intentions behind the regulation, and to then deep dive a bit into the provisions that are also more relevant for the context of education and also designing of programs in this area. So the AI Act is the first regulation, not only in Europe but also in the world, of the AI tools and technologies. So this is a first of a kind, really, regulation in the field. Because the Europe has taken this initiative to regulate AI before all other countries, all other continents, and we also after the launch of the proposal of the European Commission in 2022 already, we really could witness a sort of what we like to call it a sort of Brussels effect, in the sense of after the European Commission, the European Union took steps to regulate AI, we could see similar also initiatives in other parts of the world. So what is the regulatory intention behind this proposal of the European Commission and then behind now the regulation? AI is, of course, an incredible tool, and it really has the possibility to impact in a very positive way the work that we are doing, the way we are studying, but also how sectors are operating, from, of course, healthcare to transport, but also indeed to education, and it has also a very strong impact on the creative and cultural sector. On the other side, of course, the use of AI and the AI system can also bring some risks and challenges because of some characteristics of the AI tools that indeed can need a specific regulation in order to be let's say fully controlled and fully assessed. And these risks are identified in particular for being risks for safety and fundamental rights of a person, but also pertaining to societal mistrust and the legal uncertainty, a risk of regulatory fragmentation. Of course, there is also a challenge in the enforcement of these risks and the regulation, as indeed the systems pertaining to AI operate with a certain level of automation and also a certain level of independency, in particular the most developed ones. The AI Act applies to then all sectors, so it is the AI Act is an horizontal regulation which then prevent member states, in particular, to impose national and sectorial legislations in the field, so that all sectors in Europe can indeed look only at one regulation, so the AI Act, and having so the effect to achieve legal certainty and an harmonization. The regulatory response, which has been offered by the regulation, is indeed consistent with this rationale, and then with its core choices, and it's flexible in implementing indeed the regulatory choices, in the sense that the considering the very fast development of technologies in the field, the regulation, of course, poses some requirements and obligation, but is also subject to a constant review and flexibility mechanism that allow basically the co-legislator to and the Commission to adapt to the upcoming risks that could be posed in the future by AI. So here in this slide you see a bit the approach that has been taken by this regulation. So the approach of the AI Act is a risk-based approach. So basically, the Commission and co-legislators decided to impose rules and obligations only when the AI poses a risk. So this is, of course, let's say an internal market choice in order to allow to regulate only the systems and models which are indeed posing an appreciable risk and challenge to the fundamental rights and to the safety. So what you see in the pyramid is a bit the figurative explanation of the risk-based approach that permeates the regulation. So we do not have rules, so we do not impose rules at the European level for the AI which poses no or minimal risk. For example, we are speaking about the spam filters or AI-enabled video games. So there is not a appreciable risk level for these AI applications, and therefore there are just for this very wide area of AI tools, no rules or voluntary application of the rules that are foreseen for risky applications. Then whenever, so this is the second bigger layer, whenever the AI tools and AI systems can pose some transparency risks, there are some targeted obligations directed to indeed address this transparency and therefore to allow for disclosure. So we are speaking, for example, about the chatbots who impersonate humans or generative AI. Then the focus layer, which is indeed the high-risk AI. So this is a bit also the focus, let's say, of the regulation, because it's the area where the regulation poses more requirements and obligations on the persons operating and companies, of course, operating these systems, and it pertains to some AI that are considered indeed posing an high risk of to the safety of the products, but also to fundamental rights of the persons. The AI Act, as we will see afterwards, identifies a list of areas that are potentially high risk. So, for example, employment or healthcare, but also law enforcement and education. Then at the top of the pyramid, you can see indeed the prohibited practices. So here the level of risk is considered as unacceptable, given our fundamental values in Europe and given the high standard of protection of fundamental rights that we want to pursue. So AI posing such an unacceptable risk are prohibited. So at least in Europe, of course, and we are speaking about AI systems or AI practices that allows social scoring of persons or predictive policing, manipulation of vulnerable categories of person, but also emotional recognition in workplace and in the education, and biometric categorization of persons to infer, for example, let's say their race, political or religious belief and orientation. So risk-based approach is complemented by a coordinated governance system. So at the European level, the AI office where I work is the body responsible for the coordination and the monitoring of the application of these rules at European level, with a strong focus on the general purpose AI models, so the brains, let's say, of the systems, and it's complemented with a strong governance scheme, allowing all the member states and the market surveillance authorities to have a role indeed in the monitoring of the rules. As I was mentioning before, this is considered as being a future-proof legislation through the use of standards, codes of practice, and certain delegations and implementation, which indeed allows the AI Act to remain future-proof and flexible in the future. So there are indeed, for the second layer of the AI systems, so the ones that we saw before in the pyramid in the second part. So those that they are considered indeed as high risk. The AI Act imposes some requirements and obligations on two categories of operators. So the providers, meaning the companies and entities that develop and design these systems and that place these systems in the European market. And on the other side, there are also a more limited but still targeted set of obligations on the deployers, meaning the persons or entities or also public authorities deploying, so using for commercial purposes these AI systems for indeed their work and functioning. This is also to be clarified that the obligations and requirements for AI Act do not apply to, let's say, to personal use of AI, meaning that in my personal capacity, I can still use AI without being subject to requirements and obligations. So as per the obligations that pertain to providers, so indeed the operators that have also special and specific responsibility vis-a-vis of these systems, because not only they are competent and responsible for the development and design of those, but they are also taking the responsibility of placing these systems in the market and then let's say disseminating those in Europe. So they have so they have to respect some requirements for the AI system on the data governance, human oversight, accuracy and robustness. And they also need to operationalize these requirements through the follow-up of harmonized standards that are being currently developed by the competent organization. This is a work in progress, which is taking time and a lot of efforts, because a lot of sectors are indeed involved, and a lot of professionals in the various fields. Then they have to perform a conformity assessment, so an ad hoc conformity assessment before placing the system on the market, and also to ensure that the system follows a post-market monitoring, indeed to, let's say, allow just systems that are conform to the rules to be indeed placed on the market, and to let's say keep only the safe systems indeed in the market also afterwards. Another obligation of the providers is to ensure quality and risk management, to minimize indeed the risk that these systems can pose to deployers, but also to the final users or affected persons. The providers of the AI systems have also an obligation for a transparency purpose to registrate their systems in a EU database, which allows not only the deployers but also all users to see if indeed the system that they intend to use for their commercial and work purposes is registered, and therefore can be considered as a trustworthy AI following the European regulation. Then, as I was mentioning before, there is a set of obligation which is targeted to deployers, so the entities that deploy indeed these systems, and therefore a bit more downstream in this chain. So the deployers have substantially the obligation to deploy correctly the system, meaning that they need to respect and to follow the instructions of use that have been drafted and prepared by the providers. They need to train their employees, and they need to indeed use representative data and keep the logs for indeed always a documentation and a transparency purpose. They could have also some information obligation vis-a-vis of affected persons. This is the case, for example, of employers using AI systems in their workplace, where actually before deploying these systems, they need to inform the employees that they will be subject and how to these AI systems in their execution of their function. If the deployers are pertaining to the public sector or are public authorities, they may also need to fulfill a fundamental rights impact assessment, meaning really indeed a documentation of the potential impact and the risks that the persons that on which these AI systems can have some effect could indeed be deployed and could happen in terms of fundamental rights. This will be also with help help of a template that the Commission will provide to indeed these interested deployers. The public sector deployers also has to register the deployment of high-risk AI in the EU database. Then we arrive to the third layer, the transparency requirements. So these requirements are contained in a specific provision, which is Article 50 of the AI Act, and are directed to the systems that are considered to pose mainly transparency kind of a risk. And therefore, as I was anticipating before, here the objective of the obligations is to ensure that these systems are indeed more transparent, that they could be indeed as designed, and therefore to ensure a trust through disclosure. So the obligations are directed to systems interacting with users. So in this case, the humans have to be informed if they interact with an AI, in case this is not obvious. So this covers, for example, all the interactions with a chatbot or an AI agent, and the deployers must inform with a clear way individuals subjected to emotional recognition or biometric categorization systems in case those are used. Then there is so this provision also covers the AI generated content. So whatever is now commonly called generative AI. So all the AI systems that generate synthetic outputs need to include machine readable marks and be detectable. So this is to indeed ensure that the public can understand if a output or a content has been AI generated or not, and therefore this there are indeed some technological methods and practices that can be deployed to that end. And we also cover with this provision the labeling of deepfakes and the text publications, in particular when intended to inform the public on matters of public interest, unless they are indeed reviewed by humans, and in that case the review shall be documented, and so that it can be proved afterwards. There is for operationalizing these requirements, there is a process which is ongoing on the preparation of a code of practice, which is involving not only operators of the sector, but also academia and other stakeholders to indeed try and operationalize in a also technical way what exactly operators are expected to do, and to create a code of practice, a code of good practices that future signatories to this code shall undertake to demonstrate their compliance with this obligation. Then next to the AI systems that we just saw, during the negotiation, the co-legislators decided to put the protection on AI at an upstream level, and therefore not to cover only the AI systems, but also the general purpose AI models. So the general purpose AI models are the very big and capable models that are actually developing a lot in the market. So this covers the classical LLMs and very powerful indeed models that constitute, as I was saying before, as a metaphor, the brain of the systems. So to give, let's say, a daily life example, ChatGPT is the system, and GPT itself is the model. So indeed, let's say the element of the essential element of the model which has been trained, and that gives indeed that puts in place the essential features and the steps so that the system then can interact and gives replies. So the general purpose AI models providers are subject to two sets of rules depending on their level of risk. So we find again also in this part this risk-based approach that permeates the AI Act. So the general purpose AI models as such, so the very powerful models, need to comply with some transparency requirements. So they need to keep up and continuously update technical documentation for authorities, in case of indeed authorities, in particular the AI office or market surveillance authorities at national level, need to perform some investigation or need to check the compliance of the system or the model, but also for the providers of AI system that can indeed purchase these, or let's say take these models and embed those into their system before putting those in the market. So of course there is this objective that at the end what is placed on the market and what interfaces with the final user is safe and respectful of the objectives and the fundamental rights permeating the regulation. Then the provider of general purpose AI models shall comply with the copyright law. Of course, here the AI Act is not inventing anything. We are just complementing and supporting the already strong protection of copyright, which is ensured by the European law. But having indeed this highlight to the need to respect the copyright law and to have a specific copyright policy. And this is also linked to the third set of obligation that these providers have, because they need to fulfill a summary on the content that they use to train the general purpose AI model. This was also a strong call from the creative and cultural industry, because there was in the past, and it indeed like still could happen, that the models providers can indeed use some protected data or protected content to feed their models, in particular like the most powerful ones, and some of this content can be indeed protected by copyright or intellectual property rights, and therefore we want also with the AI Act to ensure that there is a stronger protection also for the right holders. Then the AI Act provides for specific additional obligations for very for extremely powerful general purpose AI models, and those are the models that are estimated to pose a risk which is considered so high to be defined as potentially systemic. So for these very powerful models, in addition to the transparency measures that we just saw, the provider shall perform a continuous evaluation of the model during its life cycle. So to be able to assess the risks that it can pose, and also to be able to intervene and mitigate those risks in the most appropriate way. In case of there are some serious incidents happening because of the use of this model, it needs to report these incidents and to take the appropriate actions. And of course, it needs to ensure a high level of cyber security, as these models indeed are so powerful and so capable that that could be used for not, let's say, canonic uses. Similarly to what is now ongoing for the Article 50 systems, so the transparency obligations, there was a similar process to which saw the participation of many stakeholders, academia, but also other kind of operators to draft a code of practice. And this process ended last July, and so the signature of this code of practice by more than 30 big model providers. Then here, as I was saying at the beginning, I proposed to add a bit of a focus on a couple of AI Act education-related provision. So I see as key provisions in that sense Article 4 on AI literacy and Article 5 on prohibited practices. So already Article 4 on AI literacy imposes an obligation on providers and deployers of AI system to take measures to ensure a sufficient level of AI literacy on their staff. So this means that both providers and deployers need to make sure that the persons and the staff which operate the systems have the sufficient level of training and competence to be indeed able to perform the operation on the systems, so to indeed mitigate already ex ante the potential risks that they can pose to final users. And of course, in this exercise, they need to take into account the experience of the staff, the education, and the context in which the AI systems are to be used in. Another relevant provision, in particular for the education sector, is Article 5, so which lists the prohibited practices that I presented before. So meaning the practices that are posing such an acceptable risk in Europe that are completely banned. So whenever a system is performing a prohibited practice, cannot be deployed, cannot be used nor marketed in Europe. So focus here is made to the emotion recognition in the workplace and education institutions. And the only exception which is foreseen by the AI Act is where the use of this system indeed to recognize some emotions in these places is justified for specific medical or safety reasons. Then, as I was anticipating, the AI Act presents a list of 8 areas that are considered to be more at risk of indeed not only for the safety perspective but also for the fundamental rights perspective, and therefore list these areas in an annex 3. And so you can see it goes from biometric to employment, access to enjoyment of essential private services, law enforcement, migration and administration of justice. And I wanted to highlight 2 points of this list. So on one side, the assistance to be used in the area of education and vocational training. So here, the use cases that are targeted are all the systems that a priori would risk to pose indeed a challenge for the fundamental rights of students or natural person. And so those are the systems determining access or admission to educational and vet institutions, to evaluate learning outcomes or to assess the appropriate level of education that an individual will receive, and at the end also to monitor and detect prohibited behavior of students during exams or tests. Another area that is of interest is point 5, so access to essential private and public services and benefits. So this area covers the systems that are used by authorities or on behalf of public authorities to evaluate the eligibility of natural persons for essential public assistance. So the essential services and essential assistance is not, let's say, defined in the AI Act, and so of course the, let's say, also the sensitivity and the national in particular scheme and system can, let's say, also be relevant for the correct interpretation of this area. But in general, this covers indeed the systems that are used to grant healthcare services to citizens or to evaluate the creditworthiness of persons, or to or that are used for the risk assessment and pricing in relation to natural persons. just to complete the presentation, so this is, of course, part of the general EU strategy on AI, even if it's indeed like a separate strategy. As you may know, the Commission launched the Apply AI strategy, which is now implemented by our sister unit, Unit A4 in the AI office, and that was launched a couple of months ago. And this is a very important strategy because it indeed complements the regulatory requirements and obligations that are foreseen in the AI Act by indeed establishing this sectorial flagship initiative, and to indeed support the adoption and the integration of AI in 10 strategic industrial sectors and in the public sector. So healthcare, mobility, but also cultural, creative, and media sectors are targeted by this initiative, and it proposes a set of tailored actions that are specific for the sector needs to harness, in fact, the transformative potential of AI at the end, of course, with the objective, which is, of course, shared with the AI Act, to enhance competitiveness and to further develop EU technologies in Europe. So this is my last slide, where I also wanted to add a QR code so that you can scan with your phone in case of you want to explore our activities online and also be up to date with our initiatives and upcoming public consultations, where you can also raise your voice and indeed ask your questions, or also contribute to the debate in progress. A couple of the recent activities that we have been performing in the AI office relate to the AI Act, the creation of an AI Act service desk and single information platform. This is an action of which we are particularly proud, and that was very much awaited by the stakeholders and the general public. It's basically a very accessible system and a platform where operators, stakeholders, but also citizens can ask a question on the application of the AI Act, and also on the specific compliance requirements or use cases that they are confronted to, in order to understand if, for example, their system fall under an high risk area, and how so they should indeed react to that. And the Commission, so the AI office, has a team dedicated to respond to these questions. Then we published a repository of AI literacy practices, because indeed the companies and entities are already uptaking some AI literacy practices, and therefore we wanted to collect these practices, so also to enhance and let's say facilitate a sharing of the best of those. Then we published already a couple of guidelines, so on the AI system definition, so to understand if indeed the system or the tool that one is operating or wants to put in the market can fall under the definition of AI system under the AI Act, and therefore under the obligation and regulatory scope of the regulation, and also guidelines on the prohibitions, so to explain exactly what these prohibitions are following the interpretation of the Commission, and to indeed enhance the also let's say knowledge and not only from a national perspective, but also from a user perspective, in case of you should come across one of these prohibited practice. And then, as I was mentioning before, on the general purpose AI models, we already developed a code of practice launched last July. There is a specific set of guidelines which specify some of the main elements, and we already provided also for the providers a template to insert the summary of the training data that they used. So this will indeed enhance also the transparency vis-a-vis of right holders and persons or entities which have rights on the data that could be used for the trainers. For the training of models. And then we have prepared a set of webinars that can be rewatched under the flagship initiative of the AI Pact, where we So the competent colleagues in the teams offer an in-depth look into some of the elements of the AI Act for indeed the further reference and for explanatory, of course, purposes. So this concludes my presentation. I hope that it was kind of clear. I know it's a very complex regulation, and it's also very new and very, let's say, comprehensive. Therefore, I'm happy to take any question you may have on the AI Act or its impact, and thanks a lot for your attention.
Thank you very much, Mr. Rigo. I think your presentation was extremely useful to not only depict what the current situation is on the AI Act and its impact in the EU, but also to show in its play what the main difficulties were when you were actually drafting, preparing, and now implementing the AI Act as well, because we are all very much aware of the impact, the huge impact that this new and constantly rapidly evolving technology have on professionals and also civil society's daily life. But we are not that much aware about what its impact is on people that, just like you, are daily working on its implementation and to make it better day by day. So thank you for your contribution this morning in this regard. I will leave now the floor to questions, if any. Once again, we invite you to not be shy. Please, Gianluca, yes, I heard your voice.
Thank you. May I start before
Indeed.
colleagues? Mr. Rigo, thank you very much. I'm Gianluca Coppola, President of European Digital Learning Network. It was first from personal side a clarification about exactly a very complex, new regulation we all shall we deal with. So you clarified some of my main doubts about the regulation. But I have very two quick questions for you, arised by discussion that every day I have and we have among our network. The first one is, of course, a part of the cases where clear citation should be, done in whatever is the content generated by the AI. Our, uncertainties are connected with what's the, let's say, the frontier, the lines between the plagiarism and between a given content that generated by AI could be claimed by own content. I mean, if I work with the AI and generate any kind of content, doesn't matter the topic, that content could be claimed by me, for example, as my content, so I'm the owner of that content. Or what's the exactly the frontier between using some other content, so falling down in any degree of plagiarism? And the second question is what we understand. The Commission gave us, as organizations in Europe, this regulation, which should be a framework regulation. So the question is up to us as organization to translate the framework inside our own organization. So it is a kind of a self, creation of our internal rule, like it was, for example, after the adoption of the data privacy regulation, so that we all, concluding the question, we all worked to create our own internal rules respecting the framework of the data privacy. We understand that something similar should happen, actually speaking, in our organization. Thank you very much for the answer you may want to provide.
No, thanks a lot to you for the very interesting and pertinent questions. And we are fully aware that indeed a sort of also continuous guidance and continuous support is needed, in particular in these first years of implementation of this new regulation. So, so if I understood correctly, your question is a bit twofold. So I will start with the first part of it. So you're asking if indeed indeed when you use or you provide some AI generated content, so what would be indeed your position vis-a-vis of the obligations of the regulation, and how to indeed avoid risks of plagiarism regarding indeed your role. So I would indeed advise in this kind of case to really let's say be attentive in defining its own role in the vis-a-vis of the generation of this content. This means that you can, as I was mentioning during my presentation, be or the provider of a system generating AI content, meaning that basically you are the one developing a system which can generate AI contents, and therefore you would have a specific responsibility vis-a-vis of the obligations that I mentioned before, and in particular, indeed, for whatever is generated by AI, you will have a responsibility as a provider of this AI system generating synthetic audio, image, or video text content to ensure that the outputs of your system is marked in a machine readable format and are detectable as artificially generated or manipulated. So in this case, this is your responsibility to indeed ensure that a potential third user is aware that your content is indeed AI generated and not human generated. If, on the contrary, you are just using some system, or a system that, let's say, is developed by someone else and which indeed generates synthetic audio, image, and etc., you have more limited indeed obligations, in the sense of indeed you don't need to mark. So from a technical perspective, this content or this output as being artificially generated, but still you need to disclose, for example, to the public that you intend to target, that the content has been artificially generated or manipulated. And this indeed can probably also be done just with a simple disclaimer, or something that you can put in a way more, let's say, simple way, because it's not required a really, let's say, technical machine readable format in this case system. And therefore, as I was mentioning before, this process on the code of practice on transparency requirements for these exact systems is in progress, and we are aiming at having a result by May, June of this year. This means that actually you will have a sort of rule book at hand, specifying exactly the position in which, so following the position in which you find yourself, the exact methods that from a technical perspective, or also from a, indeed, as I was mentioning, just putting a disclaimer or putting a specific information for the users, you may need to put in place and considered acceptable to be compliant with the regulation. So to be sure that indeed you are not incurring into any infringement of it. Then for the second question, so how to indeed translate this regulation internally in the organization. So of course, so I would repeat indeed this very preliminary self-assessment that one economic operator, one commercial operator shall do when using or when developing a system. So already make sure that you fall under one of the categories that are targeted by the Act. So you are a provider or you are a deployer. And indeed, in this case, for example, if you are a provider, you indeed have to perform a sort of self-classification, in the sense of, if your system falls under one of the areas that are listed in Annex 3, so those are 8 areas as I showed before in my presentation, and they really show, let's say, some targeted use cases where we identify a potential high risk, you probably are falling under the high risk obligation perspective. There is also a mechanism which is called the filter, which basically, even if a system is to be considered, so for example, used in the education for education purposes, would a priori fall under an high risk area. If, for example, the system is used only for narrow procedural tasks, or just to support a very specific and not indeed risky activity. So this, even if the system would a priori fall under the high risk, it is filtered as not at the end posing as an effective risk to indeed the students, for example, in that context, and therefore you could self-classify yourself as not having at the end a high risk system. Of course, all of this must be documented in case of national authorities can have some questions to ask you afterwards. But let's say that so the Act leaves really a lot to the so these trustworthiness objectives also to be complementary, let's say, achieved with the participation of the industry, and with indeed also with the support of all the guidances that the Commission will prepare. On this, we have also in the pipeline the next guidance that will be out, and in particular out for public consultation very soon, is the guidance on the high risk classification, where we will explain exactly for each area what is the level of risk, what are the exact systems that are targeted, with many examples that we could collect thanks to the other public consultation, to our relations with the stakeholders. So there will be another public consultation on that. If you keep yourself updated also on the AI office page, there will be certainly a big window of at least 1 month to contribute to that consultation. So in case of you find indeed something more relevant, or you have still questions relevant for your organization, you're more than welcome to indeed participate and also to support us in our work.
Thank you very much. Very comprehensive and clear answer.
Well done, thank you. I see that Mr. Devine, he has raised his hand, so Giorgio, please.
Thank you. I'm Giorgio Devine. I'm the director of the Belgian-Italian Chamber of Commerce. I have 2 questions, actually. One easier, the other is more a curiosity. The first one is about 2 initiatives that you mentioned, so the AI desk and the Apply AI initiative. So if you have a time plan for these 2 initiatives, if you know if there is a working plan or something like that, and if in the Apply AI it is foreseen the involvement of the European stakeholders in order to support the European Commission on that. And on the other side, the second question is the curiosity, because often we see that European Commission is using AI for several activities, and people writing European proposals are using AI as well. So how AI Act is analyzing this aspect, and on the other side, how the European Commission is analyzing itself in developing and using the AI Act on this. Thank you very much.
Of course, thanks to you for your questions. So for the first questions on the couple of initiatives, so already the Apply AI strategy was launched earlier this year. So it's already up and running. And as I said, it is a sectoral strategy, which indeed is designed to address the specific needs of the various strategic sectors that are identified. And in particular, as you asked for it, it creates a new governance system, which is the Apply AI Alliance, which is the main coordination forum that brings together not only AI providers, but also industry leaders, academia, and the public sector, indeed to ensure that policy actions are grounded in the real world needs. And closely connected to this Apply AI Alliance, there will be established an AI observatory, which will track AI trends and assess impact of AI in specific sectors. So this is indeed a collaborative exercise. The strategy was launched not even 2 months ago. So the preparation of the implementation of it is still, let's say, a work in progress, but it's of course expected to be fully operational soon. I invite you indeed to have a look at their specific web page where you can find also all the contacts in case of you want to indeed participate and bring your expertise and your support to this project. As I said, through the Apply AI Alliance, it is possible. Then the AI Act Service Desk, it's part of the AI Act Single Information Platform, which was launched also a couple of months ago. So this is providing an online interactive tool to, as I was saying before, to help stakeholders to determine whether they are subject to legal obligation and also to understand the steps that they need to take to comply. So indeed, if you are in doubt, for example, if you are a provider or a deployer, as we were discussing before, you can also ask a question directly to the single information platform. We are aiming at giving very rapid replies, and therefore we are really, as I was mentioning, we have a team dedicated to that, and so it's already also like an initiative which is up and running and was launched indeed to help stakeholders to navigate this very complex framework and to serve as an accessible and up-to-date information hub to offer also clear guidance for stakeholders and operators. So you can already access this single information platform and ask questions if you want to. And so for the use of AI by the Commission, of course, let's say the Commission, as all the EU institutions and body, we are not exempt from the obligations of the regulation. So whenever we figure as providers or deployers of AI Act, we have this exactly same obligations. And we also have on top of us a specific market surveillance authority, because of course, like otherwise it would be a bit of a conflict of interest to do the rules and let's say go check ourselves. So the EDPS, the European Data Protection Authority, is our market surveillance authority. So they will be it will be the body responsible for checking that also in the Commission and the public institutions at the European level, of course, all the rules are respected and complied with. In this moment, as far as I know, there are already some internal guidelines for the compliant use of AI within the Commission, because of course we are using a lot of chatbots, but a lot of also of AI tools which support our work for translations or for other also like for CV screening and other indeed work related scenario. And so we are following these guidelines that indeed would allow all the operators of these systems to be sure that we comply all the time with the requirements. As per the specific question on the design of proposals, as I was mentioning before, this is a bit of a gray area in the sense of this could following your interpretation of essential service, for example, because if we are speaking, so if the example is about for example, like designing a proposal for an Erasmus Plus program or for an educational program, therefore assuming that this proposal and program would allocate some funds to persons, is it indeed an essential service? So I would say that it depends on the sector. It would depend indeed on the specific area that we are targeting. On this, honestly, I think that we would really also on our side be very curious to know what the sector is thinking. So, for example, I was asking myself in preparation of this chat with you today, if the designing of programs like Erasmus Plus, etc., could be considered as being an access to essential service under the point 5 of Annex 3 of the AI Act, and therefore the systems used for that could be considered as a risk. One should consider if already indeed this is so education is an essential area. It depends on the countries, because it can be defined officially as an essential public area for some countries, not so officially for others. Therefore, I think that there is a bit of a also national assessment to be done on a case-by-case scenario. And indeed, because there will be probably an impact indeed on a system on a system using some data of, for example, potential candidate for the Erasmus grant on their continuation of career or possibilities for livelihood. So I would say that there could be identified indeed a potential risk of the use of these systems, because let's imagine that one of the systems that you use to grant an Erasmus Plus is biased, and therefore do not classify as eligible some students that could be, on the contrary, eligible, and therefore have a negative impact on the continuation of their career or their education. I would say that it's an interesting indeed topic that could be explored further also on our side. And indeed, if you have any, let's say, specific point that we would like to raise on this perspective, if you think that, for example, education or other specific sectors could be considered in a quite horizontal level at European level as essential factor, and therefore could merit a better protection under indeed the high risk rules, I think that we would be very happy to receive your inputs on that, so that we could analyze it, and also in case of have a specific chat on this, so to help us with the preparation of these specific guidelines also on this point.
Thank you very much. We will have a discussion within our networks as well, and we will come back with some ideas and proposals.
Very useful. Thank you.
So thank you, Giorgio, for your question. Thank you, Mr. Rigo, for the answer you provided. Considering the time that has just flew by now, and the fact that Mr. Manduso will provide the next contribution, he has already joined the session. I would suggest that if there are other questions that you want to address to Mr. Rigo, you can send them directly to her, or pass through us at the Belgian-Italian Chamber of Commerce, and we will then forward them to Mr. Rigo as well, so that in this way we can have maybe well, let's say a 5 minutes break, so we can all just at least refresh our mind a moment, and then welcome Mr. Manduso for the final contribution of this morning. So we will see you all in 5 minutes around 11:20. Thank you.
And thank you again for the presentation, Mr.
Yes, thank you so much.
Very much.
Thanks
Thank
a
you.
lot to all of you.
Thank you.
So let's wait for people to come back to their screens. We're sorry for this short break, but we prefer to give Mr. Manduz the time to properly display his contribution. And here I see him on the screen. Good morning. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Hi.
Good morning.
Morning, everyone.
So let's see if maybe in another minute people will come back to their screens. In the meantime, Mr. Manduz, I already made you co-host of the webinar, so you should be able to share your screen and display the PowerPoint presentation.
Let's see.
I see that Gianluca is back too. For just to introduce you to Mr. Manduz. So Mr. Coppola is is in charge of the DLearn consortium, so European Digital Network, and he was the person who, together with CCBI, contributed to develop this initiative this morning. I think we may start this final part of the morning. So here with us, we have Mr. Manduz. He was program manager and is currently policy officer at DG Ample of the European Commission. So the Director General in charge of the social and inclusive entrepreneurship. And I will not steal another minute of your time, and I will leave you the floor, Mr. Manduz.
Okay, thank you. So did you see the screen on the slide, or you see also the presenter slide?
Yes, we see it. Just to let you know that we don't see it in presentation modes, but if you prefer to use them this way, I think there is no problem from our side.
Well, I'm not sure what you see. That's the difficulty sometimes when you need to run a PowerPoint and present it at the same time. This I have no clue. What do you see here?
We see the presentation also with the notes below.
It doesn't work then. Is it better here?
Nothing has changed. But if in the notes there are no secrets to hide, I think that we can just using that the mode presentation you used before.
Honestly, I figured out. So, trying to share one window.
Anyway, I suggested to go ahead in this way. Don't worry, there's no problem.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. Sorry, I'm not really talented with this type of task. I joined DG Employment a year ago, and I'm working in the unit in charge of social economy and inclusive entrepreneurship. The organizer asked me just like to quickly brief you for the one who are not really knowledgeable about the notion of social economy. So when we're talking about social economy, in Europe, we're talking about around 13-14 million jobs, up to 2.5 to 3 million different entities. So globally, it's around 8 to 10% of the global workforce in the European Union, with some country where like social economy is really represented, such as Italy, France, or Spain, and other country, mainly in Eastern Europe, where the social economy is under developed. So globally, it does offer a huge contribution to the quality of social services and the integration of young people and disadvantaged group. It also offers like a very valuable contribution to what we call like the Sustainable Development Goals and the European Green and Digital transition. So yeah, that's what we're talking about in terms of like growth and space it take within the EU. So what are we talking exactly about? We're talking about weird animals sometimes that is not fully understood among stakeholders and member states. So under the terminology social economy, we have the following organization, social enterprise, cooperatives, associations, mutual benefit societies, and foundation. Each of those organizations have a different legal background among the different EU member states, but within the European Union, the European Commission, and I'll talk about it later, has developed kind of a uniform definition. So those different entities, social enterprise, cooperative, association, mutual benefit society, and foundation, have the following feature. So the primacy of people and the social and environmental purpose of a profit. That's a key feature. So the second one is the reinvestment of most of the profit and surpluses to carry out activities in the interest of the member or the general interest, largely for the entire society, focusing on social and environmental objectives. And the third key elements for a social economy entity, it's a democratic and a participatory governance. So that's the three things. Profit are reinvested. You've got a participatory governance within the structure, and you're working primarily for the collective or the general interest of the society. Now you have a lot of difference among countries. For instance, the cooperatives in Spain or in Italy are well integrated for more than 1.5 centuries, while in many Eastern European countries, the notion of cooperative is still seen really negatively because of the old communist regime. So what we need to keep also into consideration is that, like, on the top of the fact that the landscape in Europe is really diverse, it's that social economy entity operates in many sectors. It's not only health or care or education. You can find like social economy entity.
Mr. Mandus, sorry if
yes.
I interrupt you once again. I fear the slides are not moving.
Okay, can you just take the slide and you manage the screen then? Because
I will share my screen then.
Thank you. For me, the slides are moving. I'm really sorry for this little hiccup.
Now let's see. You just need me to tell me then when to move on. So sure.
I will.
You should be able to see it now.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So let's go for this. So what in the European Commission we did for the promotion of the social economy and social entrepreneurship in general, it was a long journey. As you see here, we had several initiatives in 2011, 2015, 16. And the key ones, the first major milestone we had was 2021. With the adoption by the European Commission of an action plan for the social economy. It was the first time that the European Commission came with a global plan promoting social economy globally and integrating numbers of actions into its own work program. And one of the key elements related to this action plan that I will detail later, it's a council recommendation. Council recommendation has no it doesn't mean it's something compulsory for member states, but it's something that for the first time we managed to grant some legal basis within the European Commission about social economy towards our member states. So on the next slide, I explain quickly what do we have in this social economy action plan. It's a set of 63 different actions that are reflected in three key pillars. Okay, so the first element we had in this action plan was to develop the framework condition on the policy and legal framework. What does it mean? It means that in some country, you have some law defining what a social enterprise is or what a cooperative is. But in many countries, this does not exist. And so one of the first elements we did was to promote within our member state through this council recommendation, the elaboration of a dedicated strategy in each member state, focusing on social economy or social enterprise. Another element we worked on was working on state aid. In many cases, social economy entity and social enterprise do need to get some public support to provide the services on the goods they deliver. In this extent, you have some rule, EU rule, according some state aid without changing the fact that we are supposed to work under the single market program with the same competition rule. Another element that we focused on was to facilitate public procurement for social economy entity. The last EU directive on the public procurement was adopted, I think, in 2014. Now it's being in the process of being revised. And what we wanted to make sure is that the directive in 2014 was well understood and facilitate some elements related to the socially responsible public procurement, putting some social conditionality and facilitating access to public procurement to social economy entity. We also developed a series of actions and activity to promote local and regional initiative for social economy. Today, you have many cities, Den Haag, for instance, or Strasbourg, who have developed their own social economy strategy. And you also have some regions that have developed their own strategy. I'm thinking here, for instance, in Nouvelle-Aquitaine in France, or the region of Murcia in Spain. So promoting an enabling framework condition for the social economy was the first pillar of this action plan that started in 2021. The second one, and this is where we will discuss maybe more in depth later, is to opening up opportunity. What we're talking here about is to build support on capacity through a series of initiatives, but also to ensure a better access to funding, to the social economy organization and social enterprise, and to, of course, promote social innovation on the green and digital transition. The last pillar of our social economy action plan focus on the recognition and awareness raising. What does it mean? It means that, like, you may check very recently, I think it was only a few weeks ago, for the first time, we had a Eurobarometer focusing on the place and role of the social economy in the European citizen life. And you realize that finally, if the European citizen may have heard about the notion of an association or maybe a foundation, less to a mutuality and even less to a social enterprise, what it means and what it represents within Europe is not so well known. So, like, this pillar really focus on pushing in terms of communication within the European Union on the benefit and the importance of the social economy into the socio-economic European system. And last but not least, this action plan also focused a lot on data. You cannot communicate without data, and usually capturing the social impact of social economy entity, or capturing the economic impact of social economy within the EU is complex if you don't have a grid standard on how you define it and how you measure it. So we had several studies. Some countries, such as Portugal, have developed like specific, what we call satellite accounts with their National Statistics Institute to really see the size and the volume of social economy into the society. And it's only once you have this, then you can try to promote it better without understanding fully the size on what it represents in terms of like socio-economic impact. It's difficult to promote it. So if we go on the next slide, and I'll go quickly through this one. We had 63 action. One I already mentioned is a council recommendation. Another one, and I invite you to go there, it's called like the EU Social Economic Gateway. That's the main portal and the main platform you can find in the European Union related to social economy and social entrepreneurship. So every time you have a new call, financing opportunity, a country who moved forward with a new legal regime, etc., we put information there, and it's just a golden mine of information if you're a social entrepreneur or work with a social economy entity. Well, I'm not going to go through like the series of the 60 action. What is important to keep in mind is that we had this council recommendation. Council recommendation adopted in 2023, the 27th of November, so just 2 years ago. And the main recommendation, the first one, is indeed asking member states to develop their own social economy strategy in their respective country, and they had 2 years to do that. So that was exactly 2 years ago. So now we're taking stock and have engaged a specific dialogue with all member states to see to which extent they did prepare and approved a specific social economy strategy. So far, I think it's 7 or 8 member states have developed their specific social economy strategy, while 13 or 14 of them are working on it. Now, as you see on the little timeline at the beginning, at the bottom of this slide, In 2025, we're undertaking what we call a stock-taking exercise or a midterm review. This midterm review allows us to look at what has been done out of those 63 actions and take stock on where we are. This exercise is coming to an end and will allow us to reshape a little bit the social economy action plan and see what we can do as from 2026 up to 2030, because this social economy action plan is supposed to go until 2030. So we have to do this stock-taking exercise. We have discussed with the Parliament, the Committee of Region, with the Economic and the Social Council. We have discussed with, of course, all our member states, all the social economy stakeholders at member state level, but also at European level. And we will soon, normally in February, publish and adopt a new communication shaping what the European Commission intends to do on the social economy for the coming years. On the next slide, well, I'm talking here about the Council recommendation, but I see that the time is flying, so maybe I already mentioned them. We focus on labor market and social inclusion by guiding the member state, and we have a series of recommendation specifically about labor market access, social inclusion, skill, social innovation, but also access to public and private funding. This is something important. It's not only the European Commission that is financing social economy stakeholders, it's also member states and region and cities. It's and this goes through the public procurement. I mentioned it on access to market. So we have specific recommendation to facilitate access to market or public procurement for social economy entities at the member state level. The recommendation also discuss about or make some recommendation on state aid taxation, social impact measurement and management, and push for more visibility on recognition. So now let's go to the funding part. I've done this kind of global overview on the state of play of social economy in the European Commission. So how the EU funding is managed? I don't know to which extent you are knowledgeable about this. One of the main tools we have, it's called the European Social Fund Plus, which is mainly managed by the EU member states, and the Commission play kind of a supervisory role. So the funding take place at national level. They're implemented by the member state and their region in partnership with us. It's what we call the share management. And the big part of European Social Fund Plus dedicated to the social economy, this is done through our member state. We're talking here not only for social economy, but all this European Social Fund. It's 142 billion for the programming period 2021-2027. As you may know, within the European Commission, we have started preliminary discussion to shape the future EU budget for the period 28-35. So that's for the share management. And at the EU level, we also have what we call a direct management. So this is when the European Commission directly implement programs. And this is done through the different DG directorate on unit. As for what we call the employment of the social innovation strand, the easy, that's what the European Commission is implementing, focusing on social economy. This is implemented by the DG Employment and Social Affairs. So we have one element here, and this is implemented mainly through what we call a call for proposal. And sometimes we also have like call for tenders, but I'll go more in detail into this, but most of the time we go through a call for proposal. And the third way to program EU fund, it's what we call the indirect management, is when we make agreements with specific organizations such as ILO, for instance, or the OECD, or some development agencies, where we provide them the fund and we delegate the financial and the operational management of those funds to them. So if we go now on the next slide and focus a bit more on what we call the ESF, so it's the main instrument to invest for social purposes and to invest into people. The funding, they focus on employment, on education, on skill, and on social inclusion. And we have some specific focus also on social innovation. So as I say, the global budget is 142 billion for the period 2021-2027. And it seeks to fund local and regional and national employment and social innovation through different ways. And into this, one element we have that is managed directly, it's what we call the employment and social innovation strand of the ESF+. So we have a budget there of 762 million. We follow the same priorities as the ESF+, and we propose a specific activity to support evidence-based policy in the area of employment and social policy. We support also the testing of social experimentation on innovative solutions to then transfer and upscale the good practices. We promote also, and this is very important within the Commission, the transnational cooperation for promoting social innovation across the EU. And we try to support the development of a market ecosystem related to microfinance and the emergence of hopefully a social investment market. So we have two strands on this to sum up. The first one that is done under shared management, so managed by the EU member state, and the other one, the EASY, that is managed directly by the European Commission or sometimes through indirectly through a UN agency or OECD or some international bodies. If we go on the next slide, if you want to see the detail on how it's worked, this ESF+ shared management, because this is, I mean, when we talk for the social economy, you have this cohesion data website that is really going to tell you per member state, per priority, per sector, per objective, where the money goes. So here you have a little graph, but you can also download a long list of line under an Excel table, really showing you how these European social funds are effectively managed in each member state. And you have a specific code. We call the code 138 that is dedicated to social economy and social entrepreneurship. So you can find there exactly how much each member state is investing through this ESF on social economy and social entrepreneurship. And if you don't know, the most recent data shows that I think it's 1.4 billion euros that have been allocated by the member states through the shared management for social economy and social entrepreneurship. So if you want to find the data and then contact the managing authority, because those share funds are either managed by the national level, so by the central administration, but also it's managed a lot by regional authorities, so at regional level. So you can find this and then contact the regional authority to see what type of grant or what type of financial product they have for social economy actors. If we go on the next slide, maybe I'll just show element on social innovation, because the two topics, social economy and social innovation, are really linked. And we realize that the two sides of the same coin, and it's important to express also that under this ESF there is dedicated elements. So you see here 3 billion euro focusing on social innovation. And we also have under indirect management a big support to what we call the European Social Innovation Center. It's up to 200 million. So maybe on the next slide, I'll quickly go through this one. So this European Competence Center for Social Innovation launched what we call call for proposal. It's on the next slide. It's same. This type of information you can find it easily on the web. So the European Competence Center, it collects and also assess and develops and disseminates tools and methods for social innovation. So far, we had 5 different calls, and they have set up also certain numbers of community of practice. Maybe some of you are part of those community of practice. This I don't know, that are putting together the managing authority of the ESF Plus and the wide range of stakeholders. So it's non-profit, it's commission people, it's academic, it's social economy organization. It's really really large. And I invite you to go to this Social Innovation Plus website, where you can find information on all the call, and you have a new call now that has just been launched, I think, on social innovation and on disability. But you can also find a database that's called the Social Innovation Match, that promotes the transfer and the upscaling of social innovation across the EU. And you have a lot of stakeholders and case studies and elements showing you what's going on all around the EU on this. Maybe now, yeah. Let's go on the next slide and speak about a very specific program that you may have heard about. It's the Invest EU program. So how it works? Let's say that it provides financing and mobilize investments in the key EU policy priority in general, and therefore including social investment. It works on the basis of a budgetary guarantee. So the idea that it's going to mobilize a lot of money, an additional investment across Europe. This InvestEU fund is divided in what we call 4 policy windows. And it's done so to align EU program with our priority. On one of the windows we have there, it's called the social and investment windows. It's backed with an amount of 2.8 billion euro of guarantee. So we call it the social windows. It's aimed to facilitate access to finance to micro enterprise and social enterprise. So it's entity really that play an important role within the EU economy, of course, and especially as regard inclusive employment, resilience, and innovative solution. It's also support investment in education and skill. to support high quality and inclusive education on training system within the EU. It supports investment on social infrastructure, including health and educational infrastructure, but also, and this is really a hot topic now, on affordable and social student housing. And then we've got another component of the InvestEU program we call the InvestEU Advisory Hub. So on top of this 2.8 billion of guarantee, the hub is providing support to enhance the capacity of project promoters and financial intermediaries to implement financing and investment operation. So it provides technical assistance tailored to specific needs that supports social investor, micro entrepreneurs also through a wide range of services. So it goes from a feasibility study, financial structuring, or even procurement guidance. So the project promoters, they can apply directly via some a form. Again, if you type InvestEU on the InvestEU Advisory Hub, you can find a lot of information there. So this is specifically made for the financial intermediaries. And the third component we have under this program, it's a portal that aims to, of course, I mentioned it before, to improve the visibility and the accessibility of investment opportunity within the European Union. It's kind of a matchmaking platform where promoters upload project information, and it's an easy entry point, especially for smaller organizations in early stage. Okay, we could go on the next slide. There is more detail, but I think I have no time to go through this. It explains a little bit. So you have the program that I mentioned, and the guarantee are then given to some implementing partners, mainly the European Investment Bank and the European Investment Fund, that then provides a guarantee to financial intermediaries. So this is the bank, microfinance institute at country level that then give loans or blended sometimes loans and grants to the final beneficiary. Okay, I had more to say, but I'll stop here. If we can go to the next slide. Again, I invite you to have a look to this social economy gateway. It's where within the Commission we try to put all resources related to social economy and social entrepreneurship. Sorry, I had a lot to say in a minimum amount of time, so I hope I wasn't too fast. We should get like days to talk on one side about the EU support to social economy and social entrepreneurship, but also on all the ESF Plus funding and on this specific program providing guarantees to micro entrepreneurs and social entrepreneurs through the InvestEU program. So I think we have a little bit of time to take a question. I thank you very much.
Thanks to you, Mr. Mandus. I stopped sharing the screen just to finally re-see your face and those of all the other participants. Thank you for the very deep and detailed presentation that you provided despite the short time you had at your disposal. I think that you already highlighted in a very important way how crucial it is to not lose sight of social inclusion, also from the European Union perspective. And indeed, the fact that the European Union, the European Commission in particular, is trying its best to put funds and resources at disposal of these priority is certainly a sign in this regard. So I think each of us today could understand a bit better and a bit more in detail what the ESF Plus and InvestEU programs are about and how they work. And of course, If there are any more questions about it, you have the time to just address them now directly to Mr. Mandous.
Don't be shy.
I don't. Thank you.
I think Gianluca is ready. Yes, thank you.
I don't have any specific question, also in consideration that our network, European Digital Learning Network, very close to this policy, let's say, so we know many of the insight, but thank you also for clarifying many other things. The question is more a curiosity, if it's possible to imagine in the next, programming period, also because this morning we were listening your colleagues speaking about the reform of Erasmus, how the program would renovate itself, imagining a more cross cooperation with those, let's say, between Erasmus and the program you were, presenting for like you invested. So a more cooperation, a closer cooperation between two programs, also in terms of cross cooperating in budgets than the initiatives, in order to to escalate higher the impact of those two programs.
Okay, thanks for the question. I had a last slide about the next MFF. It's not the first time I'm into this discussion, and so a proposal was tabled from the Commission to the European Parliament and the Council. So this is public information. You can find it. Voilà. So what we will have, it's 2 trillion, so 2,000 billions of euros. That's the proposal for the period 28-34. Well, the Erasmus, my colleague may have talk about it, and we have two main elements. One that is called like the European Competitiveness Fund, that will take together a lot of different existing programs, and another one that is called the National and Regional Partnership. So altogether, indeed, we move from 52 to 16 programs. So it will be a simpler and more result-oriented, and the aim is to be more agile. But then how exactly all the instruments and funds will be shaped, this is something that I think no one really knows yet. There is ongoing discussion a lot. And therefore, I don't have much to say. I think everyone, some people would like, to have a specific earmark amount. Some others don't. It's result-oriented, so it's kind of really another approach, a bit similar, I think, to the one we've seen through the Resilience and Recovery Plan. But yeah, there is nothing to say, because it's just a proposal, and we have 2 years of negotiation ahead of us, and therefore, it's just conjecture, and let's see how things goes.
Thank you.
Thank you for addressing the concern of Mr. Coppola. Giorgio, please, I saw you raise your hand.
Yes, but if there are other people that want to ask questions, feel free. We don't want to monopolize the discussion. Anyway, I'm Giorgio Albino. I'm the director of the Belgian-Italian Chamber of Commerce. It is more a question about the governance and the future call directly managed by the European Commission, the EASY program, as it is called, because yes, we were a little, let's say, surprised how the last call was managed, and the fact that it was not funded due to an exchange of competence of the topic of social innovation from DG Growth to DG Employment, as far as I remember. So my question is, I don't have now very clear if there will be other call for proposal in the future on social, directly managed by the European Commission on social entrepreneurship. And in this case, if you have a time plan on that, or if there is still a discussion on that.
Thank you for your question. So I think you refer to two calls for proposal. One for an amount of 6 million and another one for an amount of 2 million that were launched by the DG Grow, I think last year, under what we call the Single Market Program. Okay, this is what you refer to, and those two calls have been cancelled by DG Grow. I think they had 6 other calls before, since 2021, and that was supposed to be the last one, and so they've been cancelled following the new commission who reshaped some priority at DG Grow level. Now, under the other instruments you mentioned, we call EASY. We can expect some call. We launched a call, I think it was earlier this year, for all the social economy network. So it's a call for operational grants, and I believe the result will be publicly released in the coming weeks or in the coming months. And I think we can expect until 2028 new call. We had the social impact intelligence call, we had the supply and demand call, we had the transaction cost call. We have many calls. I don't have the work program in mind, but from our perspective, we will have some. And that's what I can say. No, the global, when we did this midterm review of the implementation of the social economy action plan, our estimate broadly that is 2.9 billion euro were mobilized globally for social economy since 2021, and the cancellation of these two calls therefore represent 0.26%, I think. So this is not even marginal. Will not worry too much. I think we under this existing MFF, so this 2.9 billion, I think it's a higher level of programs that has been committed and managed for the social economy than under the previous MFF. But as I say, for the period 2030, there is one number that is going on. It's 14%. So 14% of the national and regional partnership plan will be spent on social issues. That's the only thing that has been clearly validated. And then in detail, I don't have the it's too early. We have to see that we made a proposal, but we have to see how the Council and the Parliament react.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you again, Mr. Manduz. I don't see other questions in the chat, but if there is someone else who wants to speak about concerns or doubts right now, please feel free to. In case not, of course, I invite you all to share with us any further doubt or concern that may raise after reflecting on the insightful presentations that we could hear this morning about 3 different and still very much linked topics, namely the Erasmus Plus program, the AI Act, and now the social entrepreneurship. And I will just leave the floor to Mr. Coppola for a brief closing remark.
Yes, with your permission, I'll say goodbye to everyone. I was really pleased to to be with all of you today, and I do hope that this presentation and the following follow-up discussion was really useful for you.
Yes, thank you
Thank
very
you
much.
so much.
Yeah,
Thanks,
for being with
everyone.
us. Yeah.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Yes, Julia, thank you for these, closing remarks. I would share a very personal feeling that, of course, as Mr. Mandu said, we are still far from the adoption of the multi-annual new framework. But still, what I learned this morning, and this is a personal perception, is that the structure of the new Erasmus program is quite clear so far. Let's say, less clear for me from the organization point level what will be actually the rules to implement into our organization the AI Act, but I still understand that they are really under development. So very well welcome to expect May or June. Like Mrs. D'Arrigo was saying, she was saying about the sharing of a more concrete best practices we could, aspire for translating into operational the prescription of the act. So what I'm happy is that this morning, at least for me, I have been clarified many doubts about the act, and also learning that the program Erasmus is progressing in the right way. So taking in consideration different instances during this year we have been facing as issues or problems times. So I'm confident that if you agree, we can keep very open these doors during the next year and really following closely the developments. Maybe once a year we can call them once again to give us, updating, and so in order to monitor the progression. I will invite, if you agree, also the colleagues which were staying with us, stayed with us this morning. Should any question arise in the due course of the day or next week, please send the chamber the questions. I'm sure that you can readdress the questions to these relevant people and get reply, clarify the question. Then there is any question here live. Otherwise, really, thank you because the morning talk was very, very, very interesting.
Indeed, Gianluca, we also have share the same hope, in the sense that even for us, as you already know, and many other participants of this morning know as well, it was interesting to hear about the details and the clarification that experts daily working on these files could provide. In this regard, I would just leave the floor for the final remarks to our Secretary General, Mr. De Bean.
Yes, thank you very much. Really few words. Thank you very much, Gianluca, and all the speakers that presented today. Was very interesting, and that's also why I stayed online all the time. And it is very difficult in this period of the year of finding the time. So it was really and honestly interesting. And I think that this webinar is in the right moment because, as you have seen, there are a lot of things changing. So having an interaction with the European Commission and with the stakeholder is important for both the sides. So as we like to say, we like to grow together. So try to do our best in order to improve the European Commission activities, and on the other side, try to ground the European Commission to the real issues and not to other lines that sometimes are far from reality. So we're very happy of being in the DLearn network that has been a strong support since the beginning, and as well in this initiative of education in digital learning. So from our side, we are here in Brussels to support the network and all the partners. So that's all from my side. Just a few words because we will reopen the link at 2 o'clock in order to allow people to do networking, but we will not interact as a organization. So we'll allow you if you want to discuss among you. So thank you very much to all for being here today. Thank you very much again, Gianluca. Thank you very much to Julia and Fatin for organizing it, and enjoy your lunch. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Bye.
Thank you, Giorgio, and thank you, everybody. So I will stop recording also right now. And as Mr. Devin just said, you are free to use the group chat from 2 p.m. onwards until 4 p.m. to exchange reflections, comments, questions about all you have heard this morning. We will reopen it around slightly before 2 p.m. and you can use the group chat as you may prefer. Thank you all again for participating this morning.
Bye.
And yes, wish you a good lunch and a good break.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye.
you.